Today I'm speaking to a designer whose work speaks volumes, not just in form and function, but in feeling and emotion. Sally Knibbs is the creative force behind the eponymous Sally Caroline Studio, a boutique design practice based in Melbourne, celebrated for its refined, deeply personal interiors that elevate everyday living into something extraordinary. With an eye for timeless elegance and a talent for storytelling through space, Sally has built a studio that doesn't just design homes, it curates the lives within them. Her approach is thoughtful, intuitive, and entirely bespoke, making each project a true reflection of her client's identity, values, and rituals. In line with her design work, Sally recently launched the SC collection of products, which complement her aesthetic, while also cultivating a busy and engaged family life outside the office. Sally, welcome to Her Design, Her Story. It's really exciting to be speaking to you today. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me on this wonderful series. It's a joy to be here.
I'm very excited to sit and have a chat to you. We've crossed paths quite a lot through work before, but I've never had the opportunity to sit down and ask you all the hard questions about what you've been up to. I've been following your business as it's grown over the last 10 years. It's been amazing. And obviously recently been following all the wonderful bespoke offerings that your studio is doing now as well. Before we touch on all the exciting things happening in the world of Sally Caroline, I wanted to go back to the start of your individual journey. You grew up in Geelong, is that right?
Yes.
And completed your studies in Melbourne. Talk me through a little bit around what life looked like when you finished school.
So back to the beginning, I actually went straight into fashion design. I thought that was going to be the career for me. In a way, fashion and interiors are quite similar. They have that technical sort of underbelly and then this layer of creative expression. So I thought that was right for me. In the end, I think a year into that, I realised it was not my career path and I decided to take some space. So I moved to Sydney, packed up by myself and moved to Sydney at 19, and I just immersed myself in a new city and just really enjoyed the freedom of not being committed to anything. I think it was, I didn't know what it was that I wanted, so I just set out to find it. Yep. So I lived in Sydney for a year. That was fantastic. And then I went overseas and travelled. On that trip, I lived in Milan and Hamburg for short stints and took that time to see Europe and just immerse myself in travel and new cities and just explore. It was a little bit of a wild time because I think I didn't quite have a passion. I didn't quite know what it was I was doing. I'm sure my parents were a little bit nervous I might amount to nothing. But I can reflect on that now as it's actually such a special time because I was really just in this free state, enjoying and exploring. And it was on that trip that I decided, I think it was after a weekend in Amsterdam, I decided that interior design was for me. And I enrolled. And I enrolled and moved to Melbourne after that and set out to start my career.
Oh, that's amazing. So how much time had you spent overseas when you were in Amsterdam?
I was in Sydney for a year and then overseas it would have been under a year, maybe 10 months. But since of that we're in a couple of those cities and then it was travelling around. Amsterdam was just a weekend. But I was living in Hamburg at the time. It was a life-changing. Hey, it ended up being a life-changing weekend, didn't it? So all that trip, and then it was more of a see the world sort of situation. I went to the States on the way back, but I guess that was just this time of just really seeing, exploring what was out there. I obviously found my inspo while I was there. Yeah,
I was going to say, I think that's really important. You know, like it's a wonderful opportunity to get out and, as you say, with in complete liberation and sort of see what the world has to offer. What was the particular thing at that time that had drawn you to design?
I don't know. I guess there was always that technical and creative thing was always something that was evident. There's also signs from my childhood that I was sort of always leading to something like that. I'm not sure that it was something specific on that trip. I don't know, just an epiphany in that moment, maybe timing. Obviously looking back, there was, what was I doing? I was rearranging my room and painting walls as a child, and there's definitely a few of those sort of childhood influences growing up. Whether it was related to that trip, I'm actually not quite sure.
I often think in a creative industry as well, there can be a bit of a reflection of people around us maybe that in a similar industry or following
Definitely.
creative pathways. Was there anyone around
Definitely.
you when you were growing up that you felt had a bit of an influence over what you were doing?
Yes, definitely. My parents were both influential, but in different ways. They're not designers, or they're not in my industry at all. My dad is an entrepreneur. He's in manufacturing, but we would call him an ideas man. He's always he's always challenging the status quo, and he's always sort of thinking about how something can be done better, more efficient, or, just questioning how things are done. So I think that's sort of something that was influential. Definitely the business aspect was influential. My mum was more of the cheerleader. She was, I remember when I was 12 being tasked at school to draw a floor plan of a home. And I remember going home and having a conversation with her after that I wanted to be an architect. There's something about that experience that I really loved. And then as I got older, I remember she gave me a book. I don't know exactly how old I was, but I feel like I was a teenager. She gave me this very special coffee table book, which I still have and I still really enjoy. And it's called The Way We Live. And it probably sums up, I guess, that direction that I was sort of heading in as a teenager, but definitely where I've spent the last 20 years of my life dedicated to residential design and just really studying how we live and how we can enhance our lives through interior design. So, there was those influences growing up, and definitely my parents were big parts of that, but in different ways.
Oh, that's good. So you've come back to Melbourne and studied. Whereabouts did you do your study
So
course?
I enrolled in Swinburne University. I did the bachelor degree there. I was very seriously considering the decoration course at RMIT, the two-year course. Yep. It's quite funny because they have very different career pathways, and I chose the degree only because they have the year is set out a little bit differently. And I know there's a 2-month gap in the middle of the year, and I knew I could go back to Europe every year while I was doing that. And I knew I could study part of the degree overseas in Europe. So thank God it was the right decision for me. But that was the only reason why I chose to do the degree. And I guess following on from that sort of dream state, that flow state that I was in for 2 years, coming back to uni, once I decided that this was what I was going to do, I really just threw everything at it. I think if I wasn't going to be travelling, I really wanted to make sure I was making the most of this experience. So I enrolled in the degree. I started working part-time as an interior stylist.
Yep.
And I obviously signed up for the study abroad as soon as I could. Part of that, there was a couple of options for locations. Yep. I ended up going and studying in Copenhagen.
Oh, amazing.
Which was a really, really special experience.
Yeah.
Danish design and Scandinavian design generally is so well regarded, and it was just a very special creative experience. Also travel experience. I think with all of this travel, that was a big influence, just really loving to immerse myself in new cities and really study and understand how they live, why they live in certain ways. The interior design in Copenhagen is a little bit different. The climate is quite different. I remember going over there in January and it was absolutely freezing, like freezing. I didn't know that cold. The only cold I knew of that was at the snow when you wear like the full balaclava and the full suit, and they're just walking around in normal clothes in like 0 degrees. I was like, how are people surviving this?
Oh, that's so funny.
But anyway, so Copenhagen was a great experience. And then after that, I actually went and did a 6-week placement internship in London.
Amazing.
There was a company that I'd been following all this time while I was studying, and I reached out to them and I said, can I come and learn? And so I spent 6 weeks there and sort of immersing myself in one London life and also just learning from them, which was an incredible sort of development design studio headed by Philippe Stark and John Hitchcocks.
Amazing.
And at the time, Jay Jagger was one of the creative directors, and she designed this incredible building in New York that I was like absolutely obsessed with. So it was a great experience. So this whole study experience, it was really about learning and immersing myself in this industry as much as I possibly could.
And great to be back travelling when you had intent that second time round. I think being back saying, this is what I'm doing now, and this is
and definitely seeing those cities in a different way as well. It's a good experience.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you spent time travelling and studying, and then ended up back in Melbourne working for a few design offices before you eventually started your own practice. Yep. What were the next steps in getting design experience like for you? Were there any key people you worked for in Melbourne?
Yes, I was quite intentional with who I wanted to work with. I mean, similar to how I sort of sort of set out with that English company, there was only a couple that I had on my list. By that time, I was really quite clear on the type of interior design I wanted to be doing.
Yeah.
Obviously, the industry is quite broad. You can be doing, universities and train stations, and you can be doing retail stores. So there was only a couple that I really wanted to work for. All the work that I did during my studies to make myself the best candidate possible to get a job. I graduated right in time for the GFC, the Global Financial Crisis in 2008. So, I found myself a little bit stuck. I thought, oh gosh, all this effort and I'm not even going to get a job. Designers were getting laid off left, right and centre.
It's a weird time.
It was a weird time, yeah. But I just, I had two firms particularly that I was really sort of harassing / keeping my eyes on.
Keen to work for. And eventually I got an opportunity with David Hicks. Amazing. And that was probably 8 months into unemployment. And that was a fantastic experience. I'm very, very grateful for that. He has had at the time, and I believe still now, has quite a small team, a very small but highly focused, specialised team. And I think that was my first introduction to this very boutique studio style. It was him and 2 staff members. So there was no time to fluff around in the supply library. You're just straight in there. Yeah. I think within 6 months he'd given me a title of senior designer and I was running my own project. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking. Maybe he was doing that to up my charge out rate. I don't know. But it was just straight in there and learning and, everything like that. So I was predominantly doing retail design there. I had my clients were Alana Hill and Bettina Liano and a bit of an idea of the retail landscape at the time, and residential as well. So that was 3 years. That was great. And then after that, I went and worked for Kerry Phelan, who at the time had separated from Hecker Phelan and Guthrie, which was another one that I was keeping my eye on / stalking. Yeah. And spent 2 years there with some great mates and met some great friends there, or had friends there from uni. So it was all just a really fun experience and more of a focus on residential. Both of them, so Kerry as well she was a team of 5, or she had 5 team members plus her, sorry. Yeah. So both of those examples were quite small studios. And so that's always been my reference point and leading into my own work. I guess the only difference is neither of them have kids. So navigating career and motherhood is the next juggle, which I didn't have experience in, and I've had to just, wing it as I've gone. But no, that's that's a whole other ball game. Totally. So what was that decision process like for you for working for these other designers? Did it feel like a natural evolution then going out and starting your own business?
I think I've always been interested in business. Yeah. Obviously I had that influence, my dad having multiple businesses growing up and, in his life. So that entrepreneurial spirit was always around me, and I think it was always of interest. I had a couple of small businesses. I actually not even going to say that they didn't even get off the ground. I had a
good idea.
My sisters and I had a little fashion business we were going to take to market. Thankfully, we did not. I think we were about 10 or 12 years old at the time. And then when I got back from Copenhagen, we were going to start a bike business.
Yeah.
We got one sample and we were like, no, this is too hard. So the business thing was always alive. I have had actually 2 other businesses. While I was at David Hicks, I started a business with one of my best girlfriends that I grew up with called Harklow. It was home accessories. And amazing. I have had another business which was a private, like a membership website, and people could subscribe or to buy and to have access to everything that I've learned over design and renovation. So I've had other businesses that's always been involved, and that was quite early on, I think even before Sally Caroline officially. So the idea of creating my own interior design studio, I think it was probably always on the cards. It was just a matter of timing when it felt right. I think working for other people is so important. Particularly, I guess that's probably all industries, but there's so much to learn that you don't learn in a classroom. So building that experience was really critical, and I think then it was just a matter of personal circumstances. My boyfriend was in Sorrento. I wasn't going to get a job in Sorrento, so I just started freelancing and set up on the dining table at home. And I think that was the beginning of Sally Caroline.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, you've just now celebrated over 10 years in business, which is incredible. It's an amazing milestone. Yeah. Can you describe a little bit about the structure of your practice currently? how it's operating at the minute?
So similar to the examples, I guess what I feel most comfortable in, it's a very small and specialised team.
Yep.
So there's myself, I'm the creative lead. I'm looking at projects from the initial briefing, creative direction through to final delivery. And then I've got a team member in each role. So associate designer, procurement manager and studio manager. My studio manager is also looking after all of the product sales. And then we've got contractors and CFO, like financial controller and social media.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, social media is quite a big one now, isn't it?
It is. And it's just, it's not something that I warm to very naturally. I think we all love to create the content and we're constantly capturing as we're on site and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's another task that is, someone else needs to be running it to, I think, do it the best it can be.
And it's quite new, really, compared to when we would have been out
Definitely.
working for other designers. Social media certainly wasn't.
No, definitely not.
thing,
And
so-
thinking back to my early inspo days, the brands that I was following, they were not on Instagram. But now you can really get in and see a full insight of how, look under the hood of studios, how
Yeah, I
they're
think
running,
it's
and
good.
I guess see things come to life. And I think that's probably what is most exciting about social media. I guess that's how we like to use it. I think it's
Yeah.
really about sharing our process and I think the journey from engaging artists or designers or, sort of bringing furniture to life and how projects develop. I think that's something that we like to do to be able to share that with people.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. Adaptability and evolution are also important, obviously, in keeping a business thriving over time. Obviously we've had COVID and, recent interest rates I know have sort of hit certain sectors of the design market.
Yes.
Have there been any particular ways that you feel that you've had to adapt your business over the years of operating?
Oh, adaptability, needing to
Always.
adapt is just always. And I think it's probably every business, but definitely when you throw in when the founder's a mum, I think that just makes it really challenging.
Yeah.
In terms of how we've evolved, I feel like the biggest driver has been that, finding a way for my work life to work in with my personal life and changing with those seasons. Motherhood is also, it's not even just one thing, it changes itself. So, when I had one child and she went to daycare, that was different to now I've got 3 and they're in 3 different locations. So I'm constantly, it has to evolve all the time.
Yeah.
In terms of economic, because I'm only in residential, we are a little bit protected.
Yeah.
I think, so for example, with COVID, I think a lot of retail and hospitality sort of grinded to a halt. But because we're in this niche of luxury residential,
It was busy.
it actually just
funny,
tripled.
wasn't it? Yeah.
So it was like throw that in with baby number 2.
Yeah.
And we're off for a good time. So
Keeping things busy.
that has been a little bit different. In terms of how we adapt, it's constantly reviewing and editing. Sometimes it's letting things go. Sometimes it's just refining the offering or refining what we're doing. Sometimes it's changing the days that I'm in the office. I think it's a constant process of reviewing, having structure in place.
Yeah.
And that's. Yep.
No, it's good. It's sort of that element of flexibility, isn't it, that we all sort of need to
There's definitely nothing stagnant.
manage.
No new year is the same in our business. I think every year we've been a little bit different. We've tried to learn the most from the year before, what worked, what didn't, what type of projects worked for us and what didn't. So we have this team retreat, which is in January of every year, and started very small and then obviously turned into something bigger and a bit more official. But it's 3 days that we spend not doing client work but being in the office, and we'll reflect on all those things, what worked, what didn't the year before, make a plan for the year ahead, maybe set goals for the year ahead, and make changes. So that sort of structural evolution, we make sure we're always going to be different every year, and that's something that we put in place for that.
Oh, that's amazing. And good to fall back on the team and
Definitely.
see
Well, they're all
everyone's
part of it.
ideas and
Definitely. I think it's important to involve the team. They're all part of it. I think they all have different roles, so they have a different perspective. Sometimes, one of the team will come to me and say, that really wasn't working. It was really hard to do this. We need to do it this way instead. So it might be a process change, a system change, or it might be those types of projects are just not going to work for us, or we shouldn't take on those projects or something like that. So
no, that's interesting. A slightly more personal work question, but are there any key attributes that you think have helped, personal attributes that you think have helped you in running a business? Have there been any sort of particular skill set?
I think I think you have to be passionate. I think you've got to really love it, and you have to be resilient. You're going to get kicked in the teeth. That's just something that is with business. You've got to love it enough to get kicked in the teeth and keep getting up. Because it is hard. And just obviously that adaptability, knowing that nothing is going to be the same, and just being able to roll with it. As designers, we're doing that anyway, because how many times have you gone to a demo and you're like, what's that column doing there? And you just have to pivot, and you're like, okay, we're going to,
that's a good point, actually.
So you are constantly actually having to be adaptable in design and architecture anyway. But that has to follow through to the business. And I guess it's, that constant edit and review.
Yeah.
And be willing to let things go sometimes. Like, as I said, I've had those businesses that I've let go, or certain projects, not doing certain types of projects.
Yeah.
Be willing to let them go, adaptable.
Yeah. Moving into that sort of those key areas of work, you mentioned residential. Is that something over time that's your sort of key focus in the office?
Yes, definitely. So we're entirely focused on luxury residential projects. So that will be everything
the dream
from...
project.
Yeah, the dream project. Well, they're challenging too. They're actually very challenging too. They have it's a little bit double-edged. But so the projects we take on would be something like a major renovation, where we'll do the full replan and then through to all finishing and furniture at the end, or we might work alongside an architect. Quite early on in my business, I decided to not take on any projects which were outside of residential, so retail and hospitality, which were still sort of bubbling away, or workplace. I've been contacted a few times for workplace. I just felt, when I was reflecting on everything, I guess, in my whole journey so far, what I was really passionate about, what I was here for, what I feel like I could be best at, I just felt that my passion was somewhere else. My passion was in luxury residential, something I really, really love. And I felt if I let go of some other things and gave that more space, it would give me opportunity to hone my skill set and the craft a little bit better, to become better at it. And I think, so that was the key reason for that. I think there's other wonderful designers in Melbourne that do workplace and hospitality and retail so well, and I very happily refer them.
Pace of projects.
It's a different pace. It's also even from a studio, like a setup and a training, like the type of admin. I've done that many, obviously back in the days at David Hicks, but putting a retail store into Chadstone, there's a lot of admin that's related to that, or even just how a hospitality venue is to be set up and designed. There's a lot of expertise that is needed to be across those types of projects. So I just found, if I just instead focus my time on, all right, let's analyse dressing rooms, what sort of joinery systems or layout tricks, or what can we do in a dressing room that makes it so elite and people will absolutely love. Instead of focusing my attention on that, on laundries and kitchen, those really functional spaces, I let the rest sort of go and just, really sort of honed my craft on that luxury res market.
The beautiful projects.
Yes, but the other side is obviously they take longer to finish, and this is the other thing, and that's why it's longer. It takes a long time to build. Like a project will be 2 to 5 years, and so if I was doing retail, I think you can design and have it done in probably 6 months. You'll get a photo shoot. So it's quite a different pace, but I guess it comes back to what you're passionate about. And for me, that's resi and. I just had to stick to my guns on that.
It's a good journey with clients. Like, I think it's a really rewarding journey.
It is. It's very personal, and I guess you have to love that part. I really love getting to know people and getting to know their family, and very sort of jumping into that and creating something that feels very perfect for that family. I think obviously commercial projects, hospitality, and they're different. It's more of a branded decision or a commercial decision, whereas residential is really about, well, this will be the perfect, dream home for you, and this is why we should do it this way. Gorgeous. Well, in line with your amazing work at Sally Caroline, in 2024 you launched the SC collection, which started with stools and has now grown into rugs and a beautiful mirror collaboration, which I saw came out recently. That's absolutely stunning. Was this a natural evolution for you to move into sort of objects and furniture pieces, or how did that kind of come about? It was an evolution, but I'm going to say it was very slow. It was very slow. So the team retreat that I mentioned, doing product was something that the team, we'd spoken about as a team for probably 4 years. It was sort of sitting there, but we just didn't have capacity. I think it would have been around COVID. The team was absolutely full on design projects. We were as big as didn't want to put on, I didn't want to grow the design studio any more than it was, and it was just absolutely heaving. So it was just something that just sat there. And then the need came for a bar stool, which seems like a very random place to start. But it kept coming up on projects where we needed something that just would sit seamlessly within our projects, could be in whatever finishes that we wanted it to be, and was accessible, easy, Australian made would have been great. But, even if we could just get it in whatever finishes we want, that would have made us happy. And when I was 3 months pregnant with my third child, a friend of mine.
It's always the way.
Yeah, just the timing of it was quite funny. But a friend, V from Christopher Blank, she gave me some names. One was an industrial designer, Lockie from Spaceman Studio, a 3D visualizer and a metal fabricator. And she said, if you want to do a bar stool, here are 3 people that can help you. And so I thought, oh gosh, after 4 years, is this really the time we're going to do this?
Yep.
But anyway, so I thought about it very briefly and reached out to Lockie. I had been thinking about it so much, so I had quite a clear direction on what I wanted, but we needed that extra piece to really jump in and bring that expertise. So we got to work and we worked on Lunetta for about a year. And then what was going to be one stool, it became, I think it's 4 5, just versions of, because we want it to be
really
flexible.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. And what ended up was something that's really quite elegant and simple in its silhouette, but it just can flex in terms of its finishes and be adaptable to different spaces and different moods.
Yep.
It's been very exciting to see be specified by other trade. I think most of our clients are other designers, like 95% are other designers, because I think they had the same problem. They just wanted to be able to put whatever they want on it to suit their project and get it quickly.
I also I'm finding with clients now there's a lot more focus on coming back to Australian design, which is really exciting.
Yes.
And also there's that element of, I guess, aspiration a little bit, like they might not have the need for a whole Sally Caroline project, but they can buy in a little bit of something
absolutely.
that you've created.
And that's what I love. And I saw those examples from designers overseas. That was also a little bit of that inspo. So Laura Gonzalez and India Madhavi are 2 designers overseas that I was sort of following along, and I've bought a couple of pieces from their collection, and it's so exciting to have a piece of theirs in my projects, and they're doing such beautiful stuff. So I guess that was an inspiration for it all. And then it's all really just evolved with what is sort of we're putting into our projects, or what we've needed as a design studio. So then with rugs, it was just, the stand size rugs, I just never fit actually in a project. Yep. So everything had to be custom made and in any colours that we wanted. So again, it was just, I put together a small collection of rugs inspired by some of my favourite locations, favourite destinations, and that became, the Odyssey collection. And then mirrors, I mean, again, it's always just something that we've had the need for. So something special for a powder room or a dressing room or an entryway. And that one was a little bit unexpected, because my studio manager and my husband did say, no new things, like no new things.
Like just one more thing.
No new things. And then I got this message from Steve like in January, I think, which is the time of like peace and just no work. And I thought, oh God, am I going to say no to Steve from Denholm? I don't think so.
No.
So I said yes, but I didn't tell Michaeli or my husband for like 2 weeks, and I felt like I was cheating. I was like, oh my gosh, eventually I'm going to have to tell Michaeli that I've said yes to something else. And anyway, it was a lot of fun. I've known Steve for a very long time. He said that I was one of his first clients. So for 10 years, I've been putting his stuff into client projects. We're quite similar in the sense we have a bit of a refined, detailed, but very playful and whimsical kind of aesthetic. And so it came together quite seamlessly, and the mirror collection was born. Yeah. It was very cool.
Yeah, no, they're gorgeous. Do you have any other, I know you've said no new things. No new things. Is there anything that, like little things, or do you have over, maybe not immediately, but I guess there's scope for that collection to keep growing? Definitely.
I think I am really enjoying the collection, and I think, as I said, constantly reviewing what I'm doing in my work to reflect my personal life. Building the collection is something that I'm really enjoying, and it's a different pace. So there are other products that are in the wings, and also product collaborations that are sort of do I say it out loud?
On the
That my
wish
husband
list.
might hear this. Look, it's not going to be much work. No, there's things that are bubbling away that we're already. There's a bank of things that we've already been working on for clients, and they're just sitting there. So there might be things that we know we might design a desk for a client, but we might design 4 and then we choose the one that goes in. And so then there's the other 3 that are sitting there. So there's always there's that sort of there's a product that's sitting there, and there's other collaborations which I'm excited to put out there.
Yeah. Oh, it's exciting. Continuing on the theme of development and finding inspiration,
Yes.
obviously this is key part of evolving the work that we're doing and keeping ourselves motivated. You've mentioned a couple of wonderful international designers. Are there any other particular designers locally or internationally that you look to for inspiration generally?
There's definitely designers, but I think looking for inspiration, it has to be far and wide, and definitely outside of that literal take as well. I think looking at other designers, I'm consuming a lot of design media. So I'm seeing a lot of our peers. I mean, there's so many wonderful designers in Melbourne that I really appreciate and enjoy. But if I'm looking for inspiration, I want to be looking far and wide from there, because if they've done it, it's done kind of thing. So I would be looking at international print magazines, design books, film and sets. I think just sometimes I'll be watching a show or
There's that wonderful Tom Ford movie.
Oh.
And what was it? Oh, they're all dressed in Tom Ford. I just remember.
Oh, I love this.
It'll come to me. But yeah,
James
it was
Bond.
interesting. Yeah, that was one of the first movies where I thought, oh, wow, that's
really cool.
Really well put together.
Yeah. And I guess it's because it's not so literal. I think that getting a little sort of germ of inspo from that, I think helps. There's been I remember a bedhead on the Marilyn movie, or I was watching Drive to Survive, and what's his name? Charles Leclerc, the F1 driver. I mean, his handrail in Monaco in his apartment. Go back through it. It's actually really quite sweet. But just, so small, I think you're looking for inspo in different non-literal places. In terms of, mood images or sort of that concept images for a project, I would be looking at more fashion, art, like an acne campaign, or even a streetwear style. Like something like that is really inspiring mood and and sort of direction. Travel has to be the biggest one. I feel the most inspired when I'm traveling, which is very hard because being in the motherhood bubble and COVID hasn't helped. But I think my favourite place to visit is Paris, which probably every designer says. But I think
for good reason.
Obviously, the shopping's great. My last time in Paris, I was flown over for a client to go shopping for 5 days on the ground of just intensive shopping, and then getting back to the hotel and mapping out where it was all going to go, and then back out shopping again. I've had some incredible experiences, work experiences in Paris. So I do have a bit of a soft spot for it. But when I'm there, I think it's the whole environment. I think the whole, their retail landscape, their hotels, their cafes, their bakeries, there's so much inspiration in that city other than the shopping. And I guess the French, Parisian style, French style, they have this way of being so over the top and bold and playful, but then also so refined and well put together. There's something really quite special about the people that live there and the places that have come to life there. So I think, gathering in terms of inspiration, it's really about gathering from all of these places, banking them somewhere where you can find them. We have this place called the SC Bible where they're all sort of banked and categorised. And then when we meet a client, they're such a big part of the inspiration as well. Yep. They become the muse, really, sort of getting to know them, how they are, what clothes they are drawn to, what colours they're drawn to. And then we sort of are building this profile of what this dream home for them would be. So they're part of the inspo too. So the inspo is very far-reaching, I guess.
Yeah, because I'm turning quickly to your residential work. I love your work. I think it's beautifully tonal. It diverges from what I would call sort of a safe design. And often when I see one of your images, you sort of want to zoom in, and there's all these wonderful bits of detail, or sort of unexpected combination of materials and layering, and there's a real depth to what you're doing. Are these aspects, obviously each project evolves with the client, but are there certain sort of concepts that you come back to in every project?
I think
texture and detail, they're obviously quite big parts of what you're...
Definitely big ones, but I think also my style has evolved over the years, and perhaps I've become a bit more I don't know, maybe more confident or more bold. And I think it's, so yeah, my projects are evolving, but I think it's always just wanting to produce something that's different. And so for that reason, it's always adding that extra layer or trying something new, experimenting a little bit, taking some bold steps with a client that trusts you. So yeah, I guess the big thing from that would just be always trying something new and testing, pushing the boundaries a little bit to get that sort of result.
Yeah, no, they're beautiful. Do you have any interesting projects on the drawing board that you can talk about at the minute?
Yeah. So what are we working on?
I'm sure you do.
At the moment, there's a couple that we're sort of really focused on at the moment. We've one which is a little bit, as I just said, we only do residential, but this was a slight sidestep, and I'm going to keep it quite vague. But a client that I've done 3 homes for, he bought a warehouse in Australia to park his cars and to have, we're calling it the man cave because it's really just to park his cars, and then there's a bit of a play space upstairs.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of fun. And so that's nearing completion. And then we've got a large home which we're about to install in, I think we're still, the date is moving around, but I think it'll be early December now. So with our installs, so we've done all this major renovation, then we've bought all the furniture, and some furniture will come from other properties of his, and then we'll put it all in over a 2-day period. So we're gearing up for that, just making sure crossing T's, dotting I's, make sure we've got absolutely everything for that big transformation in December.
Oh, that's exciting. In line with your design business, we've touched a little bit on motherhood, but you do have a very busy and involved life outside work with your three daughters. Obviously, we sort of touched on it a little bit before, but that boundary can be a little bit blurred between, work and life. How does that structure of life outside work look for you? Is it sort of a bit like I feel like I wing it a little bit week to week?
Yes, it is. So I've got 3 young girls, aged 2, 5 and 7. So that's definitely keeping me busy. Obviously my husband, we're also building a home. So in terms of the lines of blurred, it's very blurry. And so work is definitely being taken home because we're sort of at the tail end of a build. It's been going on for the last year and we're bumping in the next month.
That's exciting.
So that's really busy. But we live in Sorrento, so we live an hour and a half out of Melbourne, which I love. We've spoken about how much I love Melbourne and I love travelling, but for me, or for the kids right now, I just feel like this very quiet childhood is so perfect for them. Yeah. They're doing bush kinder and coastal school curriculums, and the world is so sweet and small and close to nature. And so for that, I think this childhood that we're creating for them, I think is right. In terms of the balance and the structure, I mean, I try to have structure in the business in terms of what happens on each day. I think that's what I try to. Having that structure, I guess, helps to to strike the balance as best as possible. So certain days I have, Mondays is for a team meeting and one-on-ones with each of my team, and Tuesdays are for production and Thursdays are client meetings. So that, loose structure. Wednesdays and Fridays I try to be with my children, but it is, it's
evolving.
It's evolving. Let's call it that. That's a polite word. I think, this year's definitely been my hardest year. I think having the 3 little kids in 3 different places and building a house, it's definitely been the most chaotic, and I've struggled to keep the structure this year the most. But anyway, next year will be a new year. Yeah. Rebuild.
Oh, it's exciting. It's good. Before we wrap, it's time for her edit. So I just wanted to ask you some quick questions and see where you're at with a few things at the minute. Great. Can you remember your first design-related purchase you ever made?
My first purchase, I think, was a brass Chipperfield lamp. So W102. Yep. I think I bought it during Kerry Phelan days, and I only bought one. They're quite expensive. So I bought one. And then now we use them for bedside, so I had to buy another one. So bedside lamps.
That's funny.
I still have them, so I've had them for a good 10 years and they are still timeless. I guess if you're buying something that is, has design integrity, it will last, and that's something that,
Exactly. Yeah, beautiful. Are there any, I'm sure there are, things that you're currently coveting for yourself?
Yes, there's always, because I shop
hard,
for a living. Professional shopper. I recently pitched a wall-mounted cabinet called the Pathways cabinet from Joanne Adisho.
Oh, wow.
absolutely stunning. The client didn't end up buying it, but now my husband knows how much it is. So if that cupboard is ever in our house, he'll probably divorce me. So
you never know. You never know. Something to aspire to. We've touched on travel, but what would be your dream next travel destination?
My dream next travel would be Paris, definitely. Probably a week in Paris, a week in Amalfi.
Oh, nice.
And love the Amalfi Coast, special place for our family, and a week in Ibiza.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Got it covered.
Got it covered.
Big 3 weeks.
Sign me up.
Design faux pas you secretly love or love to hate?
Okay. I think there'd be many, and I've definitely made some. I'm thinking back to, I remember when I started probably early in my career, I remember we used to pick one colour for joinery and one joinery style, and then it just used to go everywhere throughout a house.
Yeah.
I feel like as I've developed and I just really honing the craft, that I feel like that just feels so flat. I think just to create layers in a home and to really have a home that's more expressive and interesting as you walk through, I think it's replacing fixed joinery with, freestanding joinery, freestanding sort of cabinets, or even freestanding joinery up on legs, or just adding layers. Replacing some fixed joinery with furniture, I think, also is sort of adds those layers. So I think too much of the same thing is probably what I'd say is a bit of a faux pas. Wall-to-wall joinery of all the same colour.
Favourite creative icon, living or legend?
There are many of these. I'm going to say Pierre Paulin.
Nice.
I think his furniture particularly is just so beautifully refined, but so playful and fun all in one.
Yeah.
On one of my trips to Paris, I reached out to purchase some chairs, and they invited me into their apartment to look at some furniture. And it was exactly what I was saying about why I love Paris, is that French style. It was a beautiful Haussmann sort of heritage apartment, and it was just filled with this iconic 70s, very cool furniture, and the origami sofa was in there that all folds up. Their children were baking, just like well-behaved little French children. And it was just like everything about it was, I was like, this is just an absolute dream. Anyway, so I think he's wonderful, and I love that his legacy has continued through his son.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. Oh, stunning. Could you describe your aesthetic in 3 words?
3 words. I am going to say thoughtful.
Yep.
Would be the first one. I think there's so much design thinking and strategy in what we do, and that's just the most important underlayer. You don't see that in the image. When a finished image, you say this is their work. I don't think you really grasp how much thought and strategy has to go into it first. And then I'm going to say artful, because I think every project needs to have that artful layer to it. I think it needs to be so bespoke to the people that live in it. It's not something that is repeated. It's something, very artful. And last is playful. It's got to be fun and, enjoy the process, enjoy the outcome, and,
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Final question.
Yep.
If your style was a celebrity, who would it be?
I love this question, and I've loved hearing other people's answers.
I know we've had some funny answers.
I'm going to say, look, I think in terms of what our style, how I would sum up our style, like obviously I think it's quite luxurious but unpretentious in the same way. Relatable. I'm going to say Rose Byrne. I think
love Rose Byrne.
She is wonderfully elegant and so well put together. There's a couple of scenes in Bridesmaids where she's just like she's just so glamorous, but then she's also just hilarious and fun and relatable. Yeah. You can imagine her on the red carpet in a beautiful gown, but also sitting on a couch eating a tub of ice cream with her hair up, and there's something very relatable and fun about her. So I think that sort of sums up what I'm striving for in the brand.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much for your time today, Sally. It's been great to have a catch up.
Thank you for having me.